the nature of your emergency?
Good morning, police, fire, military, and families, and to everybody who is listening in on the Tactical Living podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined with our very own Tom Lee. Tom, it's been a while, and I am so happy to have you back on to our show because a lot has happened.
Yes, thank you so much for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
Good morning, bestie. You know, I always forget we're doing a giveaway, but I found this really cool portable fan. And now that it's getting hot, not like Texas hot, but it's still hot, I think basically everywhere. Whoever comments the most within the next 24 hours, I will send that your way. And Tom, you are a Texas sheriff's sergeant. You have also written a book. And I don't think I know anybody who wrote a book that's as good and written as thoroughly and as quickly as you did. So what even compelled you to write a book in the first place?
Oh, so I've been tossing around the idea for a little while, a few years, actually. And I talked to Giovanni Rocco. If you know Giovanni's Ring, he wrote that about his time in the mob and the DeKalb County crime family. He infiltrated that as a FBI TFO officer and ended up making several arrests out of that. And I talked to him at one of the TMPA conferences, the Texas Municipal Police Association conferences, and he encouraged me to do it. And I was like, maybe I will, maybe I won't. And I just sit there. But then it seemed like several of the other people that I know were writing books, and it came down to my pastor at my church wrote a book, and he gave one to everybody in the congregation that day. And soon after that, I was like, if all these people can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah, and then you did it in like warp speed, sending me PDFs like, Ash, I'm done with this part. Ashley, it's almost finished. You're literally almost writing it quicker than I could keep up with reading it. Good morning, everybody. You know, something that I remember you saying is, or maybe it's something that you had written, was that law enforcement doesn't break you all at once, and it breaks you one call at a time. So what was that call for you?
Well, so I think it's a cumulative of a bunch of things. A lot of it has to do with police administrations and the politics that happens behind the scene. Dealing with the actual police stuff isn't what I found wasn't the most hardest part of it. It was all the behind the scenes and everybody second guessing everything that you did. And even though you do things right, you still feel like you're getting punished for it. And it just, and the more that goes along and you're strung along for so long, the worse it feels and the worse you do emotionally. And so it's not just one, oh, there's this huge thing that happened, which it could be a huge thing that happened, but it's just call after call stacked on top of politics after politics after politics and administrations and sometimes it's good administration, sometimes it's bad administration and the administration not doing their part. I mean, there's so much to unpack there.
Yeah, totally. These boys in the comments are talking about fishing or getting ready to go deep sea fishing. I can't wait either. We're going to have an amazing time. And, you know, I'm usually pretty good with numbers and dates. And I feel like the anniversary of Ashley Loves Tom's Life Day is coming up. Am I right? You had an incident with a crossbow.
Yep.
Okay.
That's going to be Saturday. Saturday is the 7th anniversary of the shooting.
So, I'm surprised that I don't know why I locked that in, but crazy enough, you guys, if you're not familiar with Tom's story, we have had him on the show before, but he was shot to the face with a crossbow. And you had also said that that wasn't the moment that exposed the real damage. So I'm wondering what surviving that actually showed you about yourself.
So there was a couple incidents that happened all in 2 or 3 years there. I had a house fire that happened after Harvey that killed 5 children and a mother, and I actually saw the smoke, but I didn't know that it was. I thought it was the fog in the area, and not smoke. And I drove around, and then we got a call 30 minutes later saying, "Hey, the house is on fire." So I got to where I was looking at, man, could I have gone and done anything more during that situation? And then the crossbow thing happened, and and things like that. So through all that, and the Uvalde school shooting happened, I I started getting to where I knew that I needed God back. And so I started working at a church, doing the security, because what better way to go to church but to get paid to go to church? Uh, so I started going to church, just doing security. And then from there, I started joined with a guy that I worked with. He actually worked for another county, but we're in a kind of a task force type situation. And we met at the office every morning and did like a Bible study before work, and just grew. And I joined. He was part of the Gideons. I joined the Gideons. Started giving out Bibles to people. So that's kind of all that wrapped up in a little bitty segment.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. 7 years. I know it's crazy that it's been that long, especially, I remember you sharing that story with me, Tom, and it's crazy how time goes by so fast. I was talking to Clint about the conspiracy going around right now where people think that time is being manipulated. And I don't know, but it definitely feels that way. The internal struggle is a real thing within departments. People live to Monday morning quarterback everything. Yeah. I think that happens everywhere. And Clint, I know you and I have talked about some of the studies that are coming out when it comes to law enforcement admin and the possible relation when it comes to increased officer suicide. So that's definitely something that I wish more in the health and mental health space that we would talk about more. Tom, I know that something that you talk about quite a bit is moral injury. And I think that's something that a lot of departments don't even have language for, basically. So can you talk and walk us through a little bit about what it actually felt like from the inside with some of the things that you've experienced?
So, I mean, I think we need to define moral injury. Moral injury is where you're forced to do something that's not against the law or anything, but it's policy, but it kind of goes against your belief systems. A lot of people have a thing where you're taught all your life that murder or killing someone is wrong, but sometimes you have to do it in the line of duty or in military or whatnot, and some people just can't get over what that is, and the aftermath that comes, because and it doesn't have to be killing. I'm using an extreme there to show an example. It could be anything. It could be how a kid gets sexually assaulted, and you're not able to get the case prosecuted because of something, but you know that they need that. I was talking to a guy at a conference a couple weeks ago, and that was he worked in some ICAC cases, and that was kind of his thing. Is there was a kid that they tried everything to get the person that committed these crimes, and just by the nature of law enforcement. They couldn't just pin it on the person, and how he felt so bad about that, and so like he let that child down because he couldn't get the case resolved for them. So those are kind of the moral injuries that go around, and it really can eat on you as to why that is.
Yeah. Matthew, leave it to you for repeating what was kind of walking around through my mind, which was thou shall not kill versus, there's a difference. But Matthew said murder and killing are two different issues here. And it's interesting that you're talking about moral aspects, and then you introduced ICAC. Clint, worked in it and for so long, and he's still to this day trying to fight and defend for the innocent in that very way. And I've seen the moral consequences that it can have on not having your hands tied when it comes to things legally. Matthew, you are so right. Yeah, absolutely. And, I think too, I'm thinking back to the whole COVID situation where Clint and I had a very serious conversation about the fact that you will not get the vaccine, even if that meant that you lose your job. And that was something that I saw a lot of people cave on, right? We saw a lot of officers kneeling during the whole George Floyd thing as well. And now they're regretting it. I saw Kash Patel firing a lot of the FBI agents who were kneeling during the George Floyd thing. And so I think that a lot of people have a difficult time realizing that their moral compass, who they are as a person, must be integrated into what they do for work, because at some point in your career, there could come a time where those two are going to clash. And I've seen a lot of officers and clients that I've worked with where when they do clash, it becomes a legality issue. And a lot of the times officers will even lose their job as a result of it.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes officers lose their job. Sometimes like they get in a shooting situation and they're like, I'm done. I'm never going to do this again. I can't believe I was here in the first place. And that's after a shooting. But
yeah, is the DA in your area hard to work with and accept cases? Matthew's asking.
So in the county I work for, it's not. In some of the other counties, I live really close to Houston. Houston is pretty blue in comparison to Hardin County, where I work. We are very, very friendly, whereas Houston, the DA there has been known to go after police officers. So,
sorry, Tom, I don't know why there we go. Thank you. I hope that answers your question, Matthew. So in the career that you've had a lot of transitions, Tom, where now you're working in the mental health space. So talk to us a little bit about why you decided to get into that detail.
So that was the thing that I think God's hand's working on it, because I was voluntold to go to a mental health peace officer school back when I worked for one of the universities I worked for, and ended up getting my certification in being a mental health peace officer for the state of Texas. From that, when my sheriff decided to ultimately go into this task force, I was the only person that was certified at my department. And I think that kind of led to him offering the position to me, besides the fact that they know that how I work and whatnot. So I got offered that position and took it, and have been doing that for 7 years.
Good morning, Erin. I'm not sure why your comments aren't coming up. All I see is that's what she said. I'm assuming I'm going to go back and laugh at whatever that comment was for later. So, Tom, I want to just point out that since I've known you, I can definitely see such a big spiritual growth in you, not only in the things that you've involved yourself in. You talked about getting to link up with somebody that you worked with and share Bible study before your shift and things like that. And, working security at the church and giving out Bibles. And, I've seen that progression, that growth in you. And it's probably because that's something that I too have been striving for throughout the years. And I'm just wondering, what role does faith play now in your life, both as a person and as a police officer?
Well, I mean, I've always had the faith. I grew up in going to a Christian school, but I've not always lived that, and I still have my struggles as of today. Uh, I'm by no means perfect, and that's the thing is we're not perfect, and there's nothing that we can do to be there. And God redeems us through His grace from that. It's not about anything that I can do to get to heaven. It's about God's grace and me realizing that through Him is the only way that I can get to heaven because I can't do it on my own. There's no way I could do that because I'm going to fail miserably at that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Aaron said he has a question. Well, what is the question, Aaron? Since I've known you, you had gotten married, and I know the introduction of a spouse into a career like yours is not always easy. So talk to us a little bit and maybe share with other people who are listening about some of the things that maybe you've identified in your relationship or that might help other people just to be cognizant of in theirs if they are in a relationship with somebody who's a first responder.
Well, and I've got to speak to myself here. It's be open. Ask them ask them about what they want to know, what they don't. I'm lucky enough that mine actually worked in as a mental health advisor in the same unit that I was in. So she went on calls with me and had seen police and the way that they interacted and been on multiple scenes. So she kind of understood more than, let's say, somebody that's locked in an office all day may understand or may not understand. So she got to see some of the behind the scenes stuff and see when your supervisor calls and talks to you on the phone or after a call, been in the briefings, been in the debriefs to instance. So my wife's lucky enough that she's actually got to see those things. Not a lot of wives are like that. And I think that's kind of the reason why we're driven more towards nurses and first responders, other cops, is because it's a little more relatable than, say, the office person.
Yeah, I think the closer you try to get with God's spirituality, the more you are attacked. Yeah, I think so. And I think too, Matthew, that a lot of people are just more aware of that sort of thing. It's kind of like that whisper that we used to hear and we used to suppress, and maybe we didn't think it was anything apart from our consciousness or subconsciousness. And then we start to tune into that and realize it's actually a higher power and God trying to help us out day to day if only we pay attention to it. And I think it's the same thing with spirituality, especially when you're saying that people are attacked. I know for me personally, I used to be open to listening to what people would say on a regular basis. One thing of that was like if somebody was on TikTok, for example, and then they would talk about like, oh, I'm a witch and some bullshit about whatever witchery they were up to. I used to entertain it, not believe it, of course, but now I won't. Now I just, because of the same thing that you just said, like now I just want nothing to do with that at all. Tom Clint's asking, what do you think caused you to fall away from faith when you were?
Well, some of it was the hours, like we discussed. I like night shift. I worked night shift or evening shift the first 3/4 of my career. So some of it was night shift, and I mean it's hard to get off at 3-4 o'clock in the morning and make it to church at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's right in the middle of the time you sleep. So I found myself like when I did go to church, I'm back there just trying to stay awake and just rubbing my eyes and whatnot. It just wasn't kosher. And then I found that I started cussing a lot too. Just because of the environment I'm in or being around bad people all the time. You pick up some of their same habits. I used to cuss like a sailor. And it's not until I went back to church that I stopped cussing for the most part. So I think some of it's shift work, some of it's just an overall, okay, it's fire insurance, you know? God's got this. I can just live whatever, and because I believe it's whatever, he's going to save me regardless. And that's not how we're supposed to be, but that's kind of how it sometimes feels, that you can just do willy-nilly and things don't matter, which is not right. But I think a lot of people have that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to hear the way that people do rub off on you. And my husband, for example, one of my pet peeves about him is he used to work in the prisons before he became a police officer. And he eats like a barbarian because he was surrounded by inmates for so long. I'm talking like he doesn't even hold his utensil properly, and he's like guarding his food. And it's because he was in that environment. So yeah, everything rubs off on you.
But at least he eats meat.
Anyways, Christian Talk Radio has helped me when I'm struggling with life. Yeah, I really like listening to Clint and I have this ongoing battle with the word worship. He always thinks I'm saying warship, like battleship, when I'm saying worship music. So yeah, I listen to that all the time too. For anybody who is listening, what do you want first responders who are maybe quietly falling apart right now to know when it comes to them perhaps thinking that nobody understands what they're going through?
Can you say that again?
Yeah. What do you want first responders to know who are maybe just going through it and quietly falling apart right now, having gone through everything that you've gone through, especially if they're suffering like that in silence?
Well, so silence is typically our default mode. We want to isolate, get away from people, do our own thing, maybe drink a little bit. That's kind of what we're predisposed to do. And that's really not the healthiest way to cope with people. Your best bet is to actually find people that you can relate to and you can talk to. And I mean, therapy is basically that. You go and talk to somebody and have people that you can rely on. And I'm talking to myself just as much as I'm talking to anybody out there, because I still have the habits of, hey, I've had a hard day. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to go self-isolate and stay away from people and just relax and cool down and begin everything anew tomorrow when it's a new day. It's just, you got to be real careful when you're doing that. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because if you do it every once in a while, that's not a bad thing. You have to recharge your battery sometime. But if that's your always mode, there's a problem, and you need to take and get out and talk to, whether it be your spouse or friends and family, a pastor, go to therapy, whatever you need. Talking to somebody, getting it off your chest is what has to happen.
Yeah. I have to worry about people taking my food. No, you don't even have to worry about the dogs taking your food, because they always come to me instead of you. Tom, when I'm thinking about your book, before we wrap this up, I was having a little bit of a pre-interview kind of debriefing and talking about some things with somebody from our group this morning about you and our interview and your book. And he was talking to me about how he was really excited to be able to get to read it, and how the message that you're sharing, just based on everything I had posted about our interview, he's really excited to be able to get this information, but he wishes that more people would. And so talk to us a little bit about your book, the message that you're hoping that you're able to share with it, and maybe something that I didn't ask that you want people to walk away with.
Well, it's faith, trauma, and redemption. So it's my story of my career, how I got fired from an agency. I built myself back up. I started with the sheriff's office. I got shot at that point in time, and somebody tried to stab me too. And through all that, it's still not redemption, even though there's parts of that's redemption, but the ultimate redemption is in Jesus Christ. That's the message that I really want people to get out of the book, but it's not really hugely faith forward, because I don't want people that are non-believers or whatnot not to read it because they're so focused on the faith part. So faith is just a little bit of the story. It's a redemption story, being fired and being brought back. I mean, that was a huge thing in my life, and still hurts a lot having to go through that incident, and then everything else I went through. The redemption there and getting back to what it is and what God has in store for us is so great.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can somebody get a hold of you if they want you to maybe come and speak for them or contact you to be able to get your book?
My website is scarsofthebadge.com. Anybody can go there. There's a comment section where it takes and emails me, so I'll answer any of those. The book's available, of course, through Amazon or through any of the major bookstores. You're probably not going to walk in and find it on the shelf, but you can order it online and they'll get you a copy.
Or if you want a signed copy, you can just contact Tom directly because I know he has them available.
I do.
Cool. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you have any more questions, drop them down below. We'll make sure to tag Tom. And Tom, thank you for waiting as long as you did to come on our show. And something tells me that we'll have you back on soon. So thank you.
Thank you, man.
Bye, everybody.
With the new MyLowe's Pro Rewards American Express card, earn 3 points per dollar spent on Lowe's qualifying purchases for the first 6 months after card account opening. Plus, save 5% every day on eligible purchases at Lowe's and earn points on eligible purchases everywhere else Amex is accepted. Card members get more at Lowe's. Subject to credit approval. 5% can't be combined with any other offer. Exclusions and restrictions apply. Points subject to loyalty terms at Lowe's.com/terms and credit reward terms at Synchrony.com/MLPRA-terms. Visit Lowe's.com/business credit.